Over the next decade, Calvin will look different. In becoming a university, Calvin is aspiring to extend its reach and deepen its roots. By expanding its global influence, growing as a trusted partner for learning, and through deepening its commitment to the Reformed Christian faith. What began nearly 150 years ago in a single classroom on William Street, with one faculty member, one academic discipline, and just 7 students, is now a university sprawled out over a 400-acre campus, serving 3,700 students from more than 65 countries. It's an institution of 250 Christ-centered faculty who are thought leaders in their fields, and it has an alumni network of 65,000 plus expressing Calvin's mission to think deeply, to act justly, and to live wholeheartedly as Christ's agents of renewal in all areas of culture, all over the world.
The college or university takes different forms over time, it serves different populations over time in history, but that mission critically endures.
The mission of training people to serve in God's kingdom and to integrate faith, life, and learning was present at the earliest stages in Calvin's history, but how that mission was carried out and who was invited to take part has changed significantly over time. In its early years, Calvin existed to train pastors, then teachers, to serve the Christian Reformed Church and its schools. In the 1920s and 30s, it evolved significantly to include a curriculum with a classic liberal arts emphasis.
The college's vision has always been capacious enough. If God is sovereign over all areas of life, then all areas of study and preparation for work in all areas is appropriately part of the college's curriculum. The curriculum then, in its details, has evolved as student demand and interest in different areas has emerged.
By the 60s and 70s, the full range of arts and humanities, social sciences, natural sciences, and a wide array of professional programs were present. And today, Calvin offers its students the ability to explore more than 100 areas of study. Early on, Calvin's education served a specific audience: white, male students training to be pastors in the Dutch Reformed Church. But as Calvin's vision expanded over the years, so did the makeup of its student body. The first woman was admitted in 1902. Today, more than half of Calvin's students are women. The first Asian student graduated in 1918, first African American student in 1953, first Native American student in 1956. Today, 17% of the student body comes from Asian, Hispanic, African American, and Native American descent. In the 1970s and 80s, Calvin began attracting an increasing number of students from outside the Christian Reformed Church and Christian high schools. Today, Calvin draws students from dozens of different denominations and Christian traditions. Calvin also attracts a large population from around the globe. While the first international student was admitted in 1894, the population of students coming to Calvin from outside North America didn't take off until the 21st century. Today, more than 12% of the student body hails from outside the U.S.
Having more voices and more perspectives has enriched this community. The world gets so much bigger.
We learn better when we learn from the full spectrum of God's creation. When we sit down with those who are different from us, all of us benefit, all of us learn.
Because of these efforts, Calvin has not only experienced growth in its programs and diversity of learners, but also in its reputation. Over the years, Calvin has become an influencer.
The vision for the college then grew from training students who would go out into the world to Calvin faculty, not just seeing their calling exercised at Calvin College and within the Christian Reformed Church, but on the national and international stage as scholars in their fields.
It's remarkable that a denomination as small as the Christian Reformed Church could produce the impact that Calvin College has produced. And we see that as a legacy, but we see that as something we aspire to continue.
So it's time to write the next part of Calvin's story with a new vision leading the way. A vision focused on meeting the demands of a changing environment and finding new ways to invite more learners into the Calvin Project.
What excites me most is the opportunity for Calvin University to offer programming and to serve students that we haven't imagined yet in 2019. Students that we will be serving in 2030
While Calvin will remain committed to expanding its offerings to undergraduate students, it will also expand the use of digital systems and platforms to meet the needs of learners of all ages, all over the world. Like Calvin's new Spanish immersion program, which will serve high school students, adding more graduate programs, and partnering on educational endeavors like the Calvin Prison Initiative in Ionia and the Lumina Partnership in Hong Kong.
I'd like us to be a place where folks think, oh, I wonder what Calvin has to offer in that space. And knowing then that it would come from a place that thinks deeply about its work and about how to do these things well.
Drawing on the strength of its scholarship and the depth of its learning, Calvin will direct institutional resources toward opportunities that encourage faculty and students to work across disciplines and with local and global partners in tackling complex issues.
There are challenges we face in society, whether it's related to poverty or healthcare or water, that can't be solved by a single discipline.
We need to work effectively with community partners. We need to hear lots of voices that are bringing their own expertise, their own experience to the table to figure out how to solve these problems.
Calvin will also invest in its learning environments as it supports a thriving educational community. This will include continuing to update classrooms to meet the needs of current and future learners, designing spaces that spur collaboration and innovation, and creating places like the Commons Union that promotes community and supports the well-being of people and creation.
When we create places on campus where we encounter different ideas, different viewpoints, learning that perhaps we've never thought about before, that begins to shape not just the way we think, but the way that we act and we live into those truths.
So I think the new Commons Union that's going to come to campus will be a really important space for some of those things to take place.
And central to the university's entire vision is helping faculty, staff, and students more fully embody a faithful and engaged Reformed Christianity.
The Reformed Project invites us to bring our whole selves into this academic institution. There's no subject that's off limits because all knowledge belongs to God. And we are called to unpack this knowledge, to use this knowledge to make a difference in this world. Our Reformed faith invites us to do this. Our Reformed faith compels us to do this, and our Reformed faith helps us to do this well.
The best way to make sure that the mission endures is that faculty and staff deepen and strengthen their own Reformed Christian commitments and their ability to apply that to the discipline and field of study.
So another chapter begins, animated by a compelling mission and an exciting vision. A vision that values boldness and humility, curiosity and conviction, diversity and inclusion, tradition and innovation.
This change to a university grants us permission to think and dream and hope and aspire to a great deal more in the service of the kingdom.
The kinds of conversations we're having here today are going to happen on a larger stage around the world and include a wider array of people.
I think a lot of people are going to give Calvin University a second thought. They're like, that looks interesting. I'm intrigued by what they're doing.
The so what of all of it, the for what of all of it is really the end of our mission statements, to equip folks to be Christ's agents of renewal in the world.